"Turn that off or change the channel," I said to my sister Mel. She was glued to the TV watching our dad launch his campaign to be re-elected as a United States Senator.
Jeez, I know you hate Dad, but this is a big day for him.
When I didn't respond, she kept staring at me. Well, what?
This is the part where you say, "I don't hate Dad, Mel."
I still said nothing.
Come on, Caleb. I know you and Dad don't get along well, but you don't actually hate him, do you? You know he took it badly after Mom passed away.
I'm sorry, okay? Today was a bad day. I'll just be in my room. I picked up my backpack and left. When I entered my bedroom, I fell backwards on my bed. I opened my backpack and took out the math test Mrs. Owen returned that morning. A giant red F on the front page of the test summed up my life in high school. I was an average student at best, much to my dad's displeasure. He always said that I wasn't applying myself enough, whatever that meant.
Dad's going to be so angry,
Mal said as she grabbed the paper from my bed. I sat up immediately, annoyed at her intrusion. Ever heard of knocking? Give that back.
You know he already told reporters that you'll be joining HSU, right?
HSU is one of the most prestigious colleges in the country. It was also where Dad got his political science degree. My dad always set high standards for us, especially me. He had a position waiting for me in his office once I graduated college. And here I was about to tell him that not only was I not going to HSU, I wasn't sure I'd get into any college at all.
You could always run away and join a circus.
Mel joked and I threw a pillow at her. Before I tell you if I joined the circus or not, please like this video and subscribe to this channel. Also, hit that notification bell so that you'll be alerted when more stories like mine get added here.
Caleb Archibald III, get out here now!
Dad sounded furious. Also, he'd called me by my full name. I'm sure most of you know what that meant. I was in trouble.
You want to tell me what I'm looking at?
He asked as I walked into his office on the second floor of our house. He was staring at my math test. I know you're wondering how he got it. Well, I might have left it on his desk the previous night before I went to bed. I'm sorry, Dad. Looks like I'll not be joining HSU. Dad recoiled, like I'd slapped him in the face.
Caleb, you have one job and one job only, and that is to get into HSU.
And if I don't?
Then you're no longer welcome to live here.
You're forgetting that it's election season. How will it look if you kick me out? The media will love that story.
Is that a threat?
No, just reminding you that you can't afford bad publicity, I said with a smile.
Get out of my office. You're not going to ruin this campaign for me.
Caleb 1, Dad 0. If only high school mathematics was that simple.
Good morning, class. I'm Mr. Salzman, your new math teacher.
I looked up from my phone. What happened to Mrs. Owen? Mr. Saltzman smiled at me.
And you are?
Caleb.
Ah, Senator Archibald's son. You're failing this class, right?
A few of my classmates chuckled.
I'd like to discuss your grades after class.
I'm good, thanks. More chuckles.
Wasn't a request.
I hated Mr. Salty already, but went to see him anyway. If you're about to lecture me on how I'm going to miss college, please, save it.
What does your dad think of your grades?
He's thrilled. He can't wait to use my math test as a campaign poster.
Oh, so you think you're funny?
What do you want?
I asked to see you so I could offer you some private lessons.
No thanks. Mr. Saltzman smiled.
Come on, it'll get your dad off your back. Plus, who knows, you might make it into HSU after all.
How do you know about HSU? I looked at him suspiciously.
Your dad mentioned it on TV during an interview.
You seem to know a lot about my dad. Did he send you? Oh my God, did he get Mrs. Owen fired?
Calm down. He's a public figure and I happen to like politics.
I visibly cringed and he laughed.
So, what do you say?
Couldn't hurt to try. I'll talk to my dad about payment.
No need. You can pay me by passing your SAT.
Why are you being so nice to me? Mr. Saltzman looked sad for a second, then smiled.
Just correcting some mistakes I made in the past,
he said, then walked away before I could ask what he meant by that.
Who are you and what are you doing in my house?
Dad stood at the door to our study room, arms crossed.
I'm Mr. Salzman, Caleb's math teacher.
He extended his hand for Dad to shake, but Dad ignored it.
That doesn't explain what you're doing in my house.
Mr. Saltzman is tutoring me. You wanted me to apply myself, right? This is me applying myself. My dad looked surprised. I guess he never expected me to make any effort in my schoolwork.
All right then, carry on,
he said as he walked out.
I regret voting for him,
Mr. Saltzman said, and we both laughed. If I wasn't mistaken, Mr. Saltzman looked nervous. I thought it was because he just met my dad for the first time, but I was to find out later I was wrong. Mr. Saltzman was hiding a much bigger secret. I can't wait for you to find out what he was hiding. I bet you'll be just as shocked as I was. Look, 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 I said as I ran into Mr. Saltzman's office. I just checked my SAT scores, and I'd done so much better than I'd hoped. I can't believe I did this well. Thank you so much for your help.
Congratulations! Have you told your dad yet?
Not yet. I'll tell him tonight. I have an idea. How about you come for dinner at my house tonight? I want you to be there when I tell him.
I don't know. Your dad didn't seem to like me very much.
Trust me, when he sees my SAT scores, he'll change his mind. Please, come. Fast forward a few hours later, we all sat for dinner. Everything was perfect, except for one thing. When I showed Dad my SAT scores, he was not impressed.
That's slightly above average. I knew hiring a tutor was a waste of money.
You're not even paying him, Dad.
He's tutoring you for free? No wonder he's bad at his job.
Caleb worked really hard, sir. The least you can do is be proud of him.
And who are you to lecture me on how to treat my own son? It's teachers like you that let kids go through school thinking an average grade is all I need to succeed in life.
Dad, I think that's enough.
Do not interrupt me when I'm talking. Your SAT score is nowhere near enough to get you into HSU.
What? But I checked their website. My score's above their minimum entrance score. My dad laughed.
You foolish boy. You think just because you sat and solved a few math and English problems, you're now qualified to join one of the best colleges in the country?
What are you saying? That they won't accept my application?
Oh, they will, but not because of your little SAT score. They'll accept you because a few months ago I promised to build them a new library. It'll be called the Baron Archibald Student Center.
I felt so stupid. I'd spent months studying so I could make my dad proud. You never believed I could pass the test. That's why you made the donation. To say I was frustrated was an understatement.
Look, son, you're not exactly the brightest kid in the class. What was I supposed to do?
You're unbelievable. You have no idea what a good son you have. Is this how you've been treating him all these years? I should never have left him with you.
Mr. Saltzman stood up and took off his glasses. The next thing he did left all of us in shock. He tugged at his hair and kept pulling until it came off. His hair was actually a wig. But that wasn't the crazy part. When he pulled off the wig, long blonde hair fell out. Mr. Saltzman was a woman.
No, it can't be. You? It's been you the whole time?
Dad's face went pale.
Yes, Baron, it's me. Is this how you treat our son?
Did she just say our son? Dad, who is this?
My name is Sarah. I'm your mother.
But, Dad, is this true? Dad sat with his face buried in his hands. I wanted so desperately for him to call her crazy and ask her to leave immediately. Instead, what he said turned my world upside down.
Yes, it's true. 16 years ago, Sarah and I had an affair and I got her pregnant. She left when you were just a few days old.
It's not that simple. I was just a young college intern with no means to raise a child. I thought Baron and his wife were your best chance to have a good life.
So why disguise yourself?
I just wanted to be close to you without revealing who I really am. You seemed happy, and I didn't want to upset you.
You failed, because right now, I'm very upset.
I'm so sorry. I'll leave now.
A few minutes later, she was gone. A few days after that awful dinner, Mr. Saltzman, now Sarah, sent me a text asking me to meet her, but I never responded. Dad and I barely said a word to each other after that night. The last time we spoke, he said that I'd be receiving an acceptance letter from HSU, and I better confirm my enrollment. When the letter finally came, I didn't even bother opening it. I don't see why I'm here. Mel and I stood in our living room waiting for Dad to give his final speech before Election Day. Reporters were camped on our front lawn, waiting for all of us to come out as a family.
Are you still mad?
What do you expect? They basically lied to me my whole life.
At some point, you have to talk to Dad. Look, here it comes now.
Caleb, I know things are a little rocky between us, but please don't embarrass us tonight. I need you to be on your best behavior.
That's all you have to say to me? We're not going to talk about Sarah?
I provided you with everything you needed. I'm not going to have you disrespect me by asking about that woman.
Guys, the reporters are ready for us.
Dad's speech was basically him praising himself for being a perfect dad, husband, and leader. When he was done talking, he allowed reporters to ask him a few questions.
My question is for Caleb. How does it feel to be joining HSU just like your dad?
Actually, I'll not be attending HSU. You see, the truth is, I told the reporters everything as Dad looked on in horror. I told them about Dad's bribe in the form of a new library at HSU. I also told them about Sarah. By the time I was done talking, Dad's political career was over. The room went wild with questions for my dad, and security had to escort him back inside. Hours later, he resigned from office and dropped his bid for re-election. The following morning, I woke up with a massive headache. Did last night really happen, or did I dream it all?
I want you out of my house. Today.
Dad didn't even bother knocking. I guess that was my answer. I knew there was no point trying to reason with him, so I started packing immediately. I idly scrolled through my phone as I sat in my car, wondering where to go next. I could sleep in my car for a couple of nights, but I knew Dad would have it taken away soon. My phone rang with an incoming call from Mel.
Caleb, I'm so sorry. I tried to talk to him, but he's so mad at you.
It's not your fault.
What will you do?
I have no idea. I have a little cash saved up, plus I could get a job.
Or you could reach out to Sarah. Look at the things she did just to be near you again. She cares about you, Caleb.
By the end of the call, Mel had convinced me to drive to the address Sarah sent me. An hour later, I was parked outside a beautiful white house with a picket fence and a flower garden.
Caleb, I'm glad you're here. Please, come in.
Sarah stood at the doorway smiling at me. I didn't move. He kicked me out.
I'm sorry to hear that, but after what you did, I'm not surprised.
So it's my fault? She laughed.
Of course not. What you did was very brave.
Look what my bravery got me. I'm homeless and have no college to attend.
How about you come in and we try and figure things out?
Okay, I guess. I had so many questions for her, but at the moment, I was grateful to have a place to sleep.
Caleb, get out here. Another letter just came for you.
Sarah was outside tending to her flower garden. I'd been living with her for 2 months, and even though we still had a lot to catch up on, things were going well. After I moved in with her, she helped me send applications to several colleges. She even helped me write my essay, which, as you'd guess, was mostly about my life with Dad and how Sarah came back to my life. Wow, this is my 4th acceptance letter. And look, it comes with a full scholarship, just like the others.
I am so proud of you. So, which one are you gonna pick?
I'm not sure yet, but how about we go visit each of them before I decide?
Wow, I love that.
Sarah looked so happy, and if I was being honest, so was I. As for Dad, I hadn't spoken to him since the day he kicked me out. Mel and I spoke regularly, and she even came to visit Sarah and I. That's the end of my story, but there are so many more on this channel, so happy watching. Aiden shared a look with Bradford and Kendrick as they sneered.
Me?
He repeated.
You want me, Aiden Saltwater, to teach you math? Are you out of your mind?
He looked at Bradford and Kendrick again, surprised.
Couldn't you find any smart girl in our class to teach you?
He really couldn't believe it. I looked scared and humble, but deep down I was cackling like an evil wizard. You are the brightest and best student in math class that I know of. You also have a special way of explaining things to people, and no one can do it like you, I said in a very calm, sweet way. He blushed for a second, then quickly changed his facial expression to one of disgust once he noticed that his friends were looking at him.
Well,
He was scratching his head. My sweet talk was working.
let's see if we can start on...
He was about to agree when Bradford interrupted him.
Aiden will not be teaching you anything. Get out of here, will you?
He said in his British tongue, the accent that he used to deceive all the girls on campus. Jerk. As they tried to drive off, I stepped in front of Aiden's car. Aiden looked perplexed. I've already had this discussion with Mr. Orson, our math teacher. If I don't score A's on all my math papers this semester, you'll fail all of yours, you selfish human. And with that, I started walking off. I could already smell defeat, even though I was backing them.
Wait!
Aiden said. Bradford was shooting me a very intimidating look. I almost peed my pants, but then Aiden continued.
Meet me at home tomorrow by 7 p.m. Don't be late.
And then they sped off. Bradford made sure to splash a little bit of dirty water from a puddle on me as he drove off. Jerk. My plan was in motion. I was attractive, so I knew that it wouldn't take too long to get Aiden to become totally smitten with me. Then Bradford, the jerk. And finally, Kendrick. Those dudes didn't even know what was coming. You mess with my best friend, you mess with me. Hello, my name is Wicker. Till this day, I haven't figured out why my parents gave me that name. But if you believe that you're gonna give your children reasonable names, then quickly hit the like and subscribe button so we can go on with the story. I'm about to tell you just how I made the 3 hottest guys in my university fight over me. And maybe you'll be able to learn a thing or two from me, but only if you hit those buttons. Last week, Jordan ran into my room looking like an absolute mess. This meant something was really wrong because Jordan always looked charming and put together no matter what. Jay, what's wrong? I asked, scared.
You were right. It was just a game. They were just playing with me, Wicker. Why didn't I listen to you?
She cried badly. I knew what she was talking about immediately. The 3 hottest guys in our university had been asking Jordan out at the same time. I knew that this wasn't a normal thing for a group of friends to do at once, unless it was a bet. I told Jordan this, but she refused to believe me.
Why are you being jealous, Wicker? Why can't you support me for once in your life?
She screamed. What? What do you mean? I always support you. I'm just trying to tell you to look at this from a different point of view. Do you think it's normal for these 3 guys with a reputation to ask you out at the same time? She shook her head and told me that instead of bringing negative stuff up all the time, I should try to look at things from the positive side. She was a hot cake. The 3 guys that all the girls on campus wanted her. I tried my best to stop her from getting hurt. I even sabotaged her dates a few times, but she cut me off once she found out. I didn't know what was happening in her life anymore, so I couldn't intervene. These 3 jerks convinced her to miss her exams and go partying with them instead. They got her to send them pictures which they printed and stuck on all the lockers in school. They also did a few more terrible things to her. Things that I don't even think are appropriate to say out loud. I got so angry that I promised Jordan that I would deal with them.
What are you going to do?
She asked, her face swollen as a result of consistent crying. Never mind that, Jay. Just relax, I said as I wiped her face and patted her head. I was in front of Aiden's house by 6:50 p.m. I rang the doorbell and he opened it. He was taken aback immediately.
It's not yet 7 p.m., you dummy!
He screamed as he slammed the door in my face, almost hitting my nose. Wow, what a dumbass. I was going to deal with this one specially, I thought as I stood there quite shaken. Aiden's mother apologized on his behalf and let me in. By 7 p.m., Aiden started teaching me math. I don't think I can count the number of times he called me dummy, even if I count with both my hands and feet. I kept making O's and ahs, even though I already understood everything he was teaching. Maybe even more than him. I just wanted him to feel special, and he did. It took 3 days of oohing and ahhing on my side to get him to start smiling. You're really special, you know, I told him one day. He blushed.
You really think so?
Of course. I see why girls are all over you in school now. I wish I was one of them. Maybe you'd pay me a little bit more attention. I put my hand over his and he didn't hit it off. He let it stay. He looked straight into my eyes and was about to say something when his mother burst into the room. We quickly detangled our hands from each other, but I think she saw it. The next day, our chemistry teacher asked the class a question, and no one could answer it until Bradford did. Our teacher praised him and told him to sit down. After class, I met Bradford at his desk.
What do you want, weirdo?
He asked. I stared at him a little bit before saying, I don't know why everyone thinks Aiden is the smartest one amongst you 3. I mean, you obviously are. I wish you were my tutor instead of Aiden, I said as I walked away. He called back to me.
Well, weirdo, if you want, I could help you out a little bit tonight, but only if you want it, though. Not like I want to teach you or anything.
Of course, I'll come. I smiled and tried to walk away when Aiden blocked me.
Hey, Wicker, you're coming over tonight, right?
Nope, I said, leaving him confused. Bradford didn't say anything either and just left him there. Hanging out with Bradford was fun. He was actually quite smart, much smarter than Aiden. He also taught me how to play basketball and football. We shortly became friends, but for some reason, I missed Aiden. I told Jordan how I felt, and she surprised me with a reply.
Oh no, you can't like Aiden. That wasn't part of your plan. Aiden is mine, and only mine. You're supposed to bring him crawling to me.
I never told her about my feelings for Aiden again. I noticed that I had spent too much time with Bradford, and it was time to move on to my new prey, Kendrick. This was going to be fun. Becoming friends with Kendrick was more difficult than the others. He was only interested in partying and drinking, and after following him around for weeks without him paying any attention to me, I decided to challenge him to a drinking match. As you would expect, I passed out after just a few shots, so he had to take me home and call my parents to tell them that I was safe. I woke up the next day to hear some voices in the strange bedroom that I was sleeping in.
What the hell is Wicker doing on your bed, Kendrick? What have you done? Did you hurt him?
And why are you so concerned, Aiden? What's your business with Wicker, huh? You're not his tutor anymore, so his business is no longer your business. Kendrick, if you hurt that boy in any way, I swear to God, I'll make sure your face meets my fist right away.
I could recognize Bradford's sweet British voice wherever I went.
You know what's funny? You guys asking me stupid questions about a guy who doesn't care about you. Guess whose bed he's in? Mine.
Bradford and Aiden pounced on Kendrick immediately he said this, and they all started fighting. I fell into an unconscious dark hole once again, but with a smile on my face this time, because I knew that my work was done. Next thing will be to disappear from their lives forever and treat them like bullshit whenever they try to talk to me before the main embarrassment. I kept going in and out of consciousness, and the next time I woke up, I saw Aiden rubbing my cheek saying,
You'll be fine. I'm here. Nothing will happen to you.
I tried my best to avoid these three guys after that incident, but Aiden always found me. One day, he took me out to dinner and confessed his feelings for me. I broke down and told him the truth. I never loved or needed any of them. It was all just a plan for revenge because of what they did to Jordan. He stormed out and didn't contact me for 2 days, after which he called me and told me that he'd forgiven me for what I did, and that I should please forgive him for what they did to Jordan too. I told him I had already and fell deeper in love with him. He also apologized to Jordan. Then we started dating in secret because Jordan was still in love with him. I pondered over inviting him over to meet my parents, but we were so scared about how my parents would react seeing us two guys together. I finally made the decision and told him to come over one night for dinner, and this is when all hell broke loose, but not in the way you'd expect. Everyone accepted us and didn't behave like there was anything wrong with dating a boy. But then my mom kept acting strange. She was so nervous and said that she felt like she knew Aiden from somewhere. About an hour into our dinner, she started crying and said,
Oh my God, I remember now. It's you, Aiden. It's you. The birthmark, your eyes, your lips, and even the way you talk.
She almost fainted, but my dad caught her immediately. After she had taken some water and felt much better, she confessed that she had a child before getting married to my father. She had to give said child up for adoption because she wasn't mentally or financially able to take care of a child at that point in her life. My boyfriend Aiden was that child. She was certain. A DNA test was run the very next day, and it was confirmed. Aiden was really my elder brother. The terrible realization that we could no longer be together dawned on us, and as much as it hurt, we had to start avoiding each other. One day, while walking to class, I noticed Aiden and Jordan kissing. My heart almost stopped in my chest, but I just pretended that everything was all right. Jordan saw me grinning and continued kissing Aiden. She hated me now because she found out that I was dating Aiden in secret after she told me not to. She was happy that things turned out the way they did. After class, I was trying to just run home and cry a little bit when Bradford stopped me in my car.
Hey, need a ride?
Sure, why not? There was this awkward silence in the car for a long time before Bradford finally said,
I'm sorry about everything. About what we did to Jordan and how things turned out between you and Aiden. I'm really sorry. Please forgive me.
Me and Jordan have forgiven what you did to her. Now, about what happened between me and Aiden, it's nobody's fault.
Still, I'm sorry,
he said. I loved his British accent.
Would you like to go for dinner later today?
Bradford asked while scratching his head. I loved the fact that he wasn't cocky and overconfident with me. Instead, he was scared and insecure. Sure, I replied as he dropped me off. By 7 p.m., Bradford picked me up and took me to a fancy restaurant. He ushered me to a large table, and guess who I saw there? Aiden, Jordan, and Kendrick. What the hell is this, Brad?
Just sit down,
he signaled to the chair.
I see you're having fun with Bradford now.
Aiden sneered.
I thought he was a bully, wasn't he? How did you say it?
Take it easy, brother. Or someone would think you were jealous, I said, looking straight at Jordan.
I guess it's Bradford's turn to experience hurt and betrayal,
Jordan replied.
Bradford, if hurt and betrayal are too much for you to handle, I'll be happy to take Wicker off your hands.
Jordan rolled her eyes. Somehow, Bradford was able to talk sense into all of us. I apologized to Jordan and she apologized to me. Aiden, Bradford, and Kendrick apologized to Jordan again, and Aiden apologized to me for not telling me that he and Jordan had started dating. What happened was out of our control, and we were brothers now, so we had to act like it. We all became best friends, and Bradford and I later got married. Bradford treated me better than any other person would have. Last I heard, Kendrick got married to a beautiful girl and they traveled abroad. Sometimes we try to control life, but life always has its own plans for us. Like and subscribe if you enjoyed my story. Turn on post notifications so you don't miss another mind-blowing story from our channel. And make sure you click on another video from our channel and start watching once you're done with this one. Bye.
$100? You're telling me all you could make this month is $100? What kind of man are you, Steven?
Mom screamed, throwing the money in my face. A 13-year-old man, I replied, making her give me a resounding slap.
It's your fault we're suffering like this. If your dad was alive, everything would have been so much better.
I know, Mom, and I'm very sorry.
Shut up. You're not sorry, but you will be.
She walked towards me and picked up the money that she had previously thrown in my face before climbing the stairs, entering her room, and banging the door. Hey, I'm Steven. Please hit the like and subscribe buttons below so we can go on with the story. Thank you. We used to be a very happy family. Before I was born, my dad was offered a life-changing position in the United States and we moved. I was born into luxury and everything was set out for me. For people who haven't lived this life, it may seem like the dream life. But if you were born into it like I was, you'd understand that life quickly gets boring. At the age of 10, I was already looking for excitement in places I shouldn't have. This was when people started noticing how special I was. A modeling agency representative came to visit us one day, explaining my special glowing skin to my parents. He wanted me to work with them, but to my mother's surprise and dismay, my dad disagreed, saying that I was too young and they should come back in 8 years' time. I hid under the staircase and listened to the whole conversation. Once the agent left, my parents started arguing.
How can you let us miss out on such a great opportunity?
Steven is only 10 for Christ's sake.
And so what? Children start modeling from childbirth. We're missing out on so much money.
All you care about is money. What's wrong with you? We have more than enough and more will keep coming.
My dad angrily walked out of the house and my mom followed, still screaming at him. They were shocked when they saw the agent sneaking into my room from the window. I was standing behind them, shocked as well. My dad quickly grabbed the foot of the agent before he could fully enter, throwing him on the floor and almost knocking him out. Even my mother, who was previously antagonizing my dad, started kicking the agent. They called the cops on him and he got arrested for breaking and entering, warranting him to pay a huge fine, including money to fix my room window, which he had broken before being set free. I continued with my bad habits and one day, I was hanging out with some guys in an alley. They convinced me to try out a new juice that wasn't in the market yet, and I was so excited. However, for some reason, the juice rendered me unconscious, and while drifting in and out of consciousness, I felt them searching me. I woke up and it was around 7 p.m. This was surprising because I snuck out of the house around noon. I knew my parents would be so worried. I decided to call them, and this was when I noticed that my gold chain, watch, wristband, wallet, and phone were all gone. Wow, my so-called street friends drugged and robbed me. It didn't bother me too much because I knew I had multiple of these items at home. I began walking home. Halfway to my destination, I met my father, looking half crazed. He was walking with a cop.
Steven, you made me so worried. Where have you been?
I kinda got drugged and robbed and,
Huh? What? You know what? Never mind. I'm glad you're safe. We'll settle the issue with those guys tomorrow.
We started walking home, and as we got close, I noticed that our house was surrounded by cops. Suddenly, the cop working with my dad signaled my dad with some information, and my dad told me to quickly rush into the house while they walked away to have a private conversation. I ran home, and all the cops started cheering. They hugged and shook me while some just patted my head before leaving. My mother had a swollen face. It looked like she had been crying for hours.
Steven, my boy.
She lifted me up. I cried too as she hugged me tight. Seeing how worried I made everyone, I decided to change my bad habits forever. But as fate would have it, the decision was already made for me. The cops left and we waited for my dad for hours. After my mom and some policemen, whom she had contacted, tried calling him multiple times and he didn't pick up, my mother resumed her tears and worry. It was midnight and my dad hadn't yet returned. The cops told us to stay at home and wait, but Mom ignored them and took me out. We went to the last place I had seen my dad, but there were no clues there. We searched and searched, and then my mom decided that we should go to the cops' house. I secretly called the cops to tell them what we were doing in case we ran into trouble. We knocked at the cop's door and he opened up, shocked at our revelation. He said he didn't spend up to 10 minutes with my dad before leaving him and coming back home. My mom didn't believe him and accused him of kidnapping my father. He tried to talk, but she was already on top of him, trying to beat him up. Unfortunately for her, the man was stronger, so he simply held her hand and told her to calm down, saying that he would try his best to find her husband. The cops came and forced us to go home, even positioning 2 patrol cars around our house to make sure we didn't leave. That night, we couldn't sleep. Our neighbors joined the cops to search for my dad throughout the night, but we weren't let out because of my mom's previous actions. Instead, we were forced to watch everything unfold on TV. 2 days later, they found my dad in the same alley that I'd been robbed. They'd searched this alley a few times and nothing was there, meaning someone had recently dropped him there. Unfortunately, he wasn't breathing anymore, and our lives changed forever. Back to the present, 3 years have passed since the incident. My mom was lazy and refused to work, so I'd been stuck being the breadwinner of the family for years. She reminded me every day that I was the cause of my father's death. I wasn't going to school anymore, so we survived through the odd jobs that I did around the neighborhood. I couldn't get a real job because I was too young. I also started a YouTube channel teaching people handyman skills that I had learned from my odd jobs. My YouTube channel quickly blew up and started giving me more income than my handyman jobs, but I continued doing the handyman jobs because they were my source of content, and the YouTube channel couldn't survive without it. Apparently, people wanted to learn handyman skills so they wouldn't have to pay for every little thing that spoiled around their house. One afternoon, a French couple came to see my mother. She sent me to my room and locked the door, which I thought was a really strange action to take. A few hours later, my mom came up to my room and explained that I had gotten a great job and would be moving in with the French couple for a short while. She explained that this was the same man who had come a few years ago to hire me as a model. He was back now and willing to triple the contract money, just so I could work with him. The man who tried breaking into my room?
Oh, he apologized for that.
She told me that we would become billionaires in a short while if I agreed to go. I was skeptical, but put my fears aside and decided to go with them. She explained that it was just a 2-year contract and I would be back home in a short while. I left with the couple and started living in a mansion filled with other young boys who were also models. On the first day of my arrival, a boy that was around 18 years congratulated me and welcomed me to the cage of my dreams. I was confused and asked him what he meant, but he laughed and told me that he was just joking. When I told the Frenchman what the boy said and asked for an explanation, he waved it, and that was the last time I saw the 18-year-old boy. He just disappeared. I was termed the golden boy because of my dark brown skin, and everyone was in love with me. I made a lot of money, but was never given a dime. Our director, the Frenchman, explained that I would get all the money when it was time to go back home, after my 2 years were up. I agreed and told him that I couldn't wait to go back home, and he seemed disappointed. I spoke with my mother almost every day and asked her to come and visit me. She promised that she would do that soon. A year and 6 months passed, but I never saw her. She kept promising that she would still come. Despite the fact that she had been so mean to me, I still loved and missed her. I was a child after all. Unfortunately, it seemed like she didn't feel the same way. When I complained to our director, he explained that she didn't want to see me and was only picking my calls because they were paying her to do so. What? I got so mad that I didn't call her again. Funny enough, she didn't call either. After 2 years, I went to meet my director and told him that our contract had ended and I wanted to go home. He simply laughed.
Home where? To a mother who doesn't care about you? Do you know that she was practically renting you out? We paid her for everything. She doesn't care about you, but we do. We are your real family.
The director was able to convince me to stay back. I was angry and hated my mother. I always wondered what kind of a mother she was. One day, I decided to call her and yell at her, asking her why she was so comfortable abandoning her 13-year-old son with strangers for 3 whole years just because of money. I tried her number, but it wasn't going through. Her email and social media were also inactive. I started to get worried. I told my director about this and he laughed, wondering why I still cared about her. The next day, a photoshopped picture was posted on her Instagram with the caption,
"Living my best life in Bali."
What? Mom hated Bali. At this point, I knew something was seriously wrong. One morning, some security guards entered my room and told me that I had an emergency photo shoot in London, so I had to leave immediately. As we were going, I asked why we were going through the back door, and they couldn't give me an answer that made sense. I immediately threw my bags at them and ran towards the front door, where I saw my mother looking like a homeless person, dirty and haggard. She screamed and started crying when she saw me. I demanded an explanation from the director, but instead they stripped me and knocked me out. Next thing, I woke up in a cell next to my mother. My head was in her lap.
"I'm so happy to see you, Stephen."
I quickly disentangled myself from her. Happy? You abandoned me for 3 whole years.
I didn't. I didn't receive any money from these thieves for a year and a half. I begged and I begged before they sent me the contract money. When I got it, I decided to give you a surprise visit, but since no one was expecting me, they didn't prepare for my arrival. I walked straight into their conversation and I heard everything. These are the men behind your father's death, and the cop from that night is a part of their gang. They did all of this just to get you to work for them, and they've been making billions off you while promising to give you just 10%. Also, they were never planning to let you go. When they noticed me, they immediately knocked me out and put me in a cell. I didn't tell anyone where I was going, so no one came to look for me. Even when I'd been missing for months, that dirty cop found a way to make it seem like I traveled to Bali to enjoy life. He bragged about it for me while serving me dog food. I'd been planning my escape and finally broke out today, but they caught me before I could find you.
What? Wait a minute. How long have you been here?
A year and a half. At least that's what I think. I've been counting the days on the wall.
I felt terrible, but I knew that it'd soon be over. What they didn't know was that I had previously called the cops before seeing my mom, telling them that something terribly wrong was happening here and they shouldn't leave until they saw me. Shortly after, we heard a lot of gunshots upstairs. A gunfight broke out, but the cops won and arrested all of them. They found us downstairs in the cell and told us that we were very lucky. Pretty soon, I was back home with my mom and everything had changed. I set up my own modeling agency and hired the models from the Frenchman's agency, since it had been disbanded and they were all looking for work. The dirty cop went MIA, but was soon caught and arrested too. These people had been taking young children and using them as models, but never returning them to their parents. They gave the models peanuts so they couldn't run away and always found a way to make sure that the parents never saw the children again. I am glad that everything happened the way it did though, because it changed my relationship with my mother, boosted our financial status once again, and gave us the much needed closure to get over the loss of my dad.